What's up, YouTube? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to break down an advert that I did out of my home studio, but we're doing it here from Beatspun Studio today because this is where I work from now along with my bro Correz. We're going to do the breakdown of an advert that I did for Burgerfuel. This is the first one that I did, so this is one of two breakdowns that I'm going to do. Let's do it. So originally I was tasked with making a brand sound. So when you think of a brand sound, you think of the likes of Apple with their when it starts up. Personally, I think of one of my favorite ones from growing up was Sega's. Turn on the Mega Drive, you had Sonic pop up and he ran across the screen and said, Sega! So what does Burgerfuel stand for as a brand? I always thought about like, well, rock music and you got fast cars and stuff. And there's things that I actually like. So what I did is I went to their garage and actually recorded some of their cars starting up and revving. So the car that I used for the brand sound was actually one of their own cars. So I pitched to them a whole bunch of different ideas, and this was the idea that they liked. Now, based off that, I needed to make a 30-second advert song. So what I did is I tasked myself to go back into the studio using that G minor chord in order to be able to like create something that was sort of rock, grungy, but also stood for what I had imagined Burgerfuel is. So using just Logic instruments, which don't sound that great, I sort of came up with this basic idea and sent it to them just to get the basic feel of how we wanted it to go. As you can tell, the guitars don't sound great or anything, but the bass idea of the feel was supposed to be there. So I called up some friends of mine, one of them being Friedlander, amazing drummer, and another friend of mine, Lindsay, who's from Vodun, which is a band that tours Europe. So we decided to use that bass track that I made and make it actually sound good with real instruments. One of my first things I wanted to do is just make sure that those electric guitars started to sound a little bit more organic and not like a software instrument, and layer them to a point that we could get some niceness and a lot of depth out of them. So what we did is we used some classic distortion, the sort of thing that you would normally hear in like a British rock record of the 70s. It's this sort of era that I like, you know, it sounds grungy, it sounds nice. One of the coolest things that I like to play around with is layering up layers, sending them left and right, and just going absolutely ham in that sort of respect. So we had lots of fun in the studio that day, and just putting layers on top of layers until it sounded good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop out of the seat. I'm going to let my bro Friedlander come sit in the seat and tell you about what he did with the drums.
So with the beginning, you know, we want to give that guitar its space. We want to get it doing its driving thing. And I thought bring in a couple little fills, you know, establish it's about to drop, get into it, and then boom. And that last little fill at the end, the triplet there, was because of the guitar. We talked about how are we going to end this? What's a cool way to end it? And we came up with the 8th note triplets. Yeah.
The most important thing for me on this was to make sure that the guitar, the bass, and the drums had this sort of like driving feel in order to be able to make you feel like yeah, I want to go get a burger. So the bass actually drives along with the guitar really nicely within this part, and with Corey's drum fills and just drumming that sort of like gives it that feeling, it just married together really nicely. Now there was one thing missing. I was like, man, I need to just add some scratching. Found a couple of ways in order to add some scratching so that it had sounded like I was scratching in the guitars at one point. One extra thing is that if you guys have ever listened to Radio Burgerfuel when you're sitting in the store eating a burger or anything like that, quite often there'll be this little soundbite that comes on of actually one of the office girls, and she turns around and she's like, I like burgers. And I thought that would be really funny, like insider joke to sort of add to this. If you've worked inside of a Burgerfuel, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's what wrapped up to write this advert song.